Yeah, Secret India Tarot. So, what is the tarot? And why did we do one based on Indian mythology, which is the more important question? See, the tarot is something that, from my understanding and from my over 2 decades of engagement with it, I'm the only person in India, maybe in all of Asia, to have written 2 books on it also. The tarot is a European yoga, very simply. Very simply, the tarot is a methodology, a system of transforming consciousness that the European mystics designed, they found out. Now, historically, we find the origin of the tarot, and we find the first examples of tarot packs sometime between late 13th and early 14th century. It seems to have simultaneously come up in Italy and France, and then around about the time of the Renaissance, that is 15th, 16th century, it really took off very strongly. There is a large correspondence with the Kabbalah system, the Jewish mystical system, which is obvious because the Kabbalah system is in many ways the longest surviving parampara of mysticism, of occult knowledge in Europe. But at a very pragmatic level, the tarot is about transforming your consciousness. The tragedy of the tarot is that it has become associated with this whole gypsy fortune telling, predict the future, and that is such a sad development. Because if you really know what has been done, if you really know the nature of what has been done here, you will discover that this is a very, very authentic yogic system. This is something that can really be used as a tool to sadhana, or if not a full sadhana in itself, certainly as a very great help. Because it deals with 2 things. It deals, first of all, with psychological recognition of one's inner state. What do I mean by that? There are pictures on the cards, and those pictures, those cards which are numbered, they have certain assigned set of traditional meanings which correspond to certain stages or certain events that happen in most human lives. So each card becomes a sort of snapshot of an interior psychological and emotional state of being. How that works is what described as acausal synchronicity. This is a concept that was developed by Carl Gustav Jung, and he and the great scientist, he was a physicist actually, he was one of the first quantum physicists, Wolfgang Pauli, Nobel Prize winner. He cooperated with Carl Gustav Jung in writing a paper on acausal synchronicity, which was regarded as a very great scientific scandal because Jung was not a mechanistic sort of scientist, so people did not like him. But Wolfgang Pauli had a certain peculiarity about him. He would walk into a laboratory of any of his friends and all the equipment would go haywire instantly. They would explode, the readings would be off, and that is still known as the Pauli effect. That certain people, their bioelectric energy system is such that precision instruments are rendered useless, they are damaged, and actual explosions would happen and fires would happen. He was very famous. Today we don't know so much about it, but in factories which used to develop photographic films, when the days when we used to have prints The film used to be, before you would get a job there, they would make you pass through a corridor and you wouldn't know it, but on either side of it there would be exposed film, and there were many people. There's a small percentage, less than half a percentage of the population, but the bioelectricity is such, or the inner energy state is such, that they ruin films. So just by passing through, that would be enough, you would ruin it, and those people, they would give some excuse and they would be told the position is filled or something. This used to be a common practice in all factories that would create. And there are many people, they cannot wear watches, or their mobile phones are constantly conking off, again for the same reason. So since Polly had that understanding that there is something strange about, now there is no direct proof except observation. Polly came to the lab, all the equipment got screwed up, all the readings were off. When a series of it built up, then they understood that he's causing it. So that's why he called it acausal. It is not something that he did, but there is nevertheless a synchronicity that when that event happens, he is also present. The two are synchronous, though he might not be directly causing it. In his case, he was directly causing it. But he said many times these, so Jung was the man who developed it. He said things like the tarot, things like the I Ching, they are acausal. They have certain mystics, certain people who understand these things have designed structures and systems so that we can anticipate. If a certain pattern emerges in the cards or in the throwing the yarrow stocks or whatever, we can anticipate that a certain synchronous event will happen in the external world. So that is how it works. And since I've been doing it for such a long time, I can tell you, oh my God, it's fearsome. How it works is fearsomely accurate. The problem is people want to know, when will I get married, when will I get divorced, when will my daughter get married, when will my son get a job, and then you get bored, because that's like such a pathetic use of the tarot. But that synchronicity is extraordinary. And he had the courage, Polly had the courage, and Jung had the courage to just grasp it straight away. That certain patterns, certain layouts, what are technically called spreads, can reveal certain things that are happening in life, because just below the level of your waking consciousness, you are aware, you are much wiser there. Your instinct and your intuition is much wiser about what is playing out, and they surface the answer from there. Or something that you do not consciously wish to acknowledge, the laying out of the cards or the laying out of the coins or the laying out of the stocks, they bring up a pattern which causes you to acknowledge, yes, this is something that I am concerned about, this is something that is worrying me, or this is something that I am apprehensive about, this is something that I need to be careful about. So it is a matter of a technique to bring out to make manifest in terms that we can comprehend the inner psychological reality. And Jung was very taken with the major arcane cards, because he said they are all archetypes. Now the thing about an archetype, it is always a visual image, You cannot have an abstract archetype. An archetype is always a picture, an archetype is always a visual. Now what is an archetype, I am not going to get into. Go to the net and find out what Jung has written about archetypes, because it's too complex. So there is a sense of archetypal energy working, and those archetypal energies, those archetypal images, in India they used to be called devas. The experience of those archetypal, and all cultures in the world have experienced those archetypal energies, and they are called gods. In India we would call them devas. But deeper than that, deeper than all this obvious archetypal energy and the obvious thing of getting to the instinctual, intuitive level of consciousness, that is what the tarot does. It gets you to your instinctive and intuitive level of consciousness rather than your rational. It gets you to that place from which creativity flows. It gets you to that place from which the insight and wisdom flows. That's what it does. It's a technique, it's a methodology, it's a system, it's a tool, whatever you wish to call it, where you go. And yoga does it without using an external method. Yoga does it by self-inquiry and meditation and concentration. We go within, we look within. People have stopped doing this because of smartphones and constant internet and constant TV and all that. People have stopped. Though older generation people, they were quite capable of sitting and thinking about something. If a life situation came up, they would just sit and contemplate. They would just sit and let it work out. And these are the possibilities, these are the pitfalls, these are the chances, these are the options, and they could come to some very wise conclusion over it just by thinking. Or this is my life situation at currently, what do I need to do about it? Just by thinking about it. And you could see it amongst that older generation. They would just be sitting, and it's a phrase that has stopped being used, and again it was a very common phrase in that older generation. Don't disturb me now, I'm thinking. And today, if you say that, people think that there's something wrong with you. Why would you think when you could distract yourself? Because we have more entertainment options than the greatest emperors. Even the Persian emperors did not have. At 3 o'clock in the night, if you want to listen to an opera, you can. You can watch a movie, you can watch a dance performance. You just need to turn on the TV, and the whole world is present to entertain you. So there is no need for contemplativeness. There is no need for insight. There is no need for going to that deeper layer of consciousness from which the creative insights and the life-changing things emerge, because everything is done for you. And the tarot emerges at a time, usually it's very interesting, because even in India the same thing happened, when the society changes from a predominantly rural, agricultural to a small scale trading and semi-urban or urban society. That is the time the tarot emerges. It is almost as if it is a tool for transition. As the consciousness is shifting from that agricultural natural rhythm to the more urban centric artificial rhythm, the ability to automatically contemplate and figure out what one needs to do goes. So you need an external locus. And the British were here for a long time, the Theosophists were here, but the tarot never took off. The tarot started taking off in India after the 1980s. 1984 was the first time when the Indian population shifted. There are more people living in small towns and cities than they live in the villages of India. People don't realize this about India, but India is actually a very urban country. More like a Mofashil, it's more a small town, small city, but people don't live. But if you go to Hyderabad, you will know it. You drive and you drive and you drive out of the city, and it takes at least about 60 kilometers before concrete stops. That much concrete has spread all over. So the tarot is probably, whatever were the mystics of the time, I do not know, they must have realized that this is going to happen. So the habit of withdrawing into contemplation and figuring out answers will not be enough. So they designed a system. But from what I have understood and from what I have been told, I have been very fortunate to learn from authentic mystics in Europe. Not that I went to Europe, I had luck. They met me in India, I corresponded with them, whatever. But I have been taught, it used to be a Guru Shishya Parampara, it used to be a mentor to disciple methodology. It used to be a way of working with slowly raising the consciousness, insight and awareness of the disciple in a graded and structured manner. So it was a process of many years. You couldn't just start learning the tarot directly. You had to come and learn and process and assimilate, and then they would take you to the next level, But more interesting than that, because I am a yogi and I found there are so many phenomenal yogic correspondences between the tarot and the yoga, which is one of the reasons why I created my Sacred India Tarot, because I found that you don't have to change anything. By keeping the authentic tarot structure in place, you don't have to manipulate the story, you don't have to manipulate the archetypal devas, they fit perfectly. The overlay is exactly one to one. The structure of the thematic unfolding of the stories is exactly the unfolding at the same stages. I didn't have to change anything. I'll explain that a little bit, but there is something more I want to get to first. What I discovered, the other thing is, in yoga we all know we are working with tattvas. We are working with, last week I spoke on the fire tattva. Whatever process we do, yoga, meditation, pranayama, at the deepest level we are working at bringing all the tattvas into harmony, bringing earth, water, fire, air, akasha, all into harmony and into alignment. Because all of us are misaligned. The body is too strong, the body vibration is too strong in somebody. The water vibration, which is the emotional vibration, is too strong in somebody else. The air vibration, which is the intellect or the mental vibration, is too strong in somebody else. And too strong is not always a positive thing, it can be a problem. If you're too emotional, that's a problem. If you're too mental, that's a problem. In Indian English, that's even used as a symptom for insanity, mental. That person has become mental, because if a person functions only from the mind, that person is not actually sane, whatever else. So what I found was that the way that they structure it, there is an entire earth, water, fire, air and spirit tattva process. The card, the suit of pentacles, they are the earth, the suit of cups, they are the water, the suit of swords, they are the air, and the suit of wands, they are the fire, and the major arcana is the spirit. So there is that exact correspondence in the tattva working, and that is where I made my genuine breakthrough with the tarot. I do these phenomenal readings for that reason, because I understand how the tattva is working out. When you lay out the cards, just by looking at it and you see, okay, too many pentacle cards, which means bodily concerns, financial concerns, concerns about home, concerns about, there is a whole, this tattva is vibrating in the person at that moment, or this is the concern that is uppermost in the energy of that moment. That is the great breakthrough. And then of course I took it much deeper level in my book. Here is the book. I took it very deeper level. Each card I broke it down into what is the subsidiary and supporting tattva there. So for instance, suppose I am talking about 4 of pentacles or 4 of discs. Discs of course happen to be the earth tattva, that is the tattva of the suit. But the card, since it's the 4, there is a Vayu Prithvi, there is an air and an earth element. So you begin to understand at a deeper level, because no tattva works in magnificent isolation. It always comes connected with something else. You're never purely mental or rational, you're never purely emotional, it's always associated with some other. So that was actually my great contribution to the tarot. And I'm not being arrogant here, I'm being factual. Before me, nobody actually put it down explicitly. It is just something that people used to come to and they used to figure it out. So I just opened out this whole thing of what is the tattva functioning there, what is it within the card, and then within each card I stress something else. I began to stress what is the quality of the karma playing out, because I realized that the tattva also has a certain vibration in terms of the karma that plays out. So what is the karma type? It is prarabdha, which means that is karma that is already active. What is the karma quality? It is drida adrida. It is neither too firm nor is it too sticky. It's neither fluid nor hard. It's an in-between quality. So these were all my what do you call, my contributions to the tarot, and then I found a whole uh, pattern of how energy rises and falls, which is the structure in the minor arcana, how the energy rises and falls within, and that is a pattern of life. How the energy in your life rises at certain times, falls at certain times, flatlines and stagnates at another times. There is a whole internal consistent pattern within the suits of the tarot, which again probably everybody knew it, but I was the first person to explicitly say it, that this is how it plays out. That's the famous minor arcana graph, and because of that it becomes very dramatic when you do a reading. Since the point of all sadhana is to accept that as I am currently constituted is a limitation. When you come into a spiritual process, you are accepting that as you currently are, you are limited, that you would like some higher vibration, some higher consciousness to work in your life. The tarot is certainly one of those. So when you lay out the cards or you lay out the spread in a particular way, you begin to see so many nuances. First of all, it is a portrait, a very accurate picture, a snapshot or a portrait of your internal condition. Secondly, you begin to see what kind of tattva, what kind of great elemental work, you begin to see what kind of karmic processes, what kind of karmic potential. So it's fantastic. And the most interesting thing I found is that in the structure of how the cards rise and fall, between the suits, there is a certain rhythmic rise and fall of energy. 1 to 10, the energy goes in a very particular way. And I did something that has been done only once before in entire 700 years of tarot, which is in the Juliet Schumann-Bach's Mythic Tarot. She used a story to explain the 1 to 10 and the court cards of the minor arcana suits, which are the suits of the modern day playing card, by the way. The modern day playing card is exactly 1 to 10, ace to 10, and then they've got king, queen, jack. That's in the tarot, it is king, queen and knight, and they've forgotten the page. So the modern playing cards are actually the neglected offspring of the tarot pack, and of the major arcana only the fool survives in the form of the joker. The entire major arcana has been removed, so that is why the tarot pack is always larger than the. But I am talking in a meta level of what is the tarot. I am not talking about the basic structure. So this energy within the suits, where it doesn't matter which suit is it, the energy moves in a particular way. If it is an ace card, the energy moves in a particular way. If it is a 3 card, it moves in a particular way. A 4 card, it flatlines. If you choose a authentic mythological story, the unfolding of the story is completely archetypal. It follows exactly that. It actually, because I knew that Juliet Schumann-Bach had done it, I was very confident about it. But I can tell you that both the artist Jane Addams and my publisher Gautam says they were both little skeptical. How can you do that? What are you trying to pull off? You're trying to tell an entire story in sequence. You'll have to shift the story around. No, you can tell the story exactly as it played out in the original, and the correspondence are 100% fit. There is no need to change anything. There is no need to change any sequence. There is no need to alter anything. So that proved to me that this is archetypal, that this is something universal. Now, why did we make it with the Indian mythology? Because most mythologies of the world have a tarot pack now. Norse mythology, Polynesian mythology, Egyptian mythology, Chinese mythology. There was nothing authentic and genuine from India, and nothing with the insight that is required. There were 1 or 2 efforts. I shall draw the veil of charity over, what they are, because they know neither the tarot nor Indian mythology. So that's, it's like a double atrocity. Let that be. We are not concerned with that. So then when I began to do this, I realized something which I always knew, of course, that the stories that are told in yoga, the great myths of yoga, they are not nice stories you tell. They are stories about certain human potential and certain processes that play out. So we have used the story of the Buddha for the pentacles of the earth suit, the story of Shiva and Parvati, Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhavam for the water suit, the lotuses, because the lotus is a symbol of the emotions. We have used the Yuddha Kanda of the Ramayana for the fire suit, the wands. And we use the story of Bhishma as the meta connecting thread of the Mahabharata for the air suit, the swords, which we had to make arrows because we are not a sword culture. So what I realized was that just as these stories are so-called itihasas and puranas and everything, our mythological stories are not stories. They are complex communications of certain interior states of being. Certain tattva is playing out, certain karma is playing out. They are teaching tales. That is what I keep saying. They are yogic methods of teaching in an entertaining fashion, because most people can't get it. But when you tell these stories, or these stories are prescribed, you should read this story. There is a whole inner communication that is happening, which if you know the tarot properly, you can get it. If you know the story properly, you can get it. Since I love Indian mythology and I love the tarot, I said, okay, this kind of chance is very rare in life. Let's merge the two. And it works. It works both as a tarot and it works as an Indian mythology. This is actually the best book on mythology in the last 30 years. On Indian mythology in the last 30 years. And given the sad state of things today, I don't think another 30 years there is any reason to be afraid that it is going to be toppled. So in that sense, when I discovered that this is actually a yogic process, this is actually something that works and accomplishes and does all the same things that yoga does. This is a process of transformation. This is a process of shifting your consciousness. That is when I really began to enjoy the tarot. I really began to get the maximum benefit from it. Now you see, if you use that as a quick and easy method to connect with a higher consciousness, so much help happens then. You really do not know exactly what to do, and instantly you get the aid or the advice that you require. This aspect of the tarot, I don't know what, there is this mountain of resistance against it. People want this whole jyotish, they want this whole predictions, fortune telling kind of thing. But that is not the fault of the tarot. That is the sad and pathetic and limited use that people make of it. It can be done. It's just that since we have so many well-established systems of yoga, this is a slightly longer path. If you just do only the tarot as your sadhana, you do only the tarot as your spiritual process, it is not like you won't come to the same goal. Because the goal of the tarot, the people who would work with the tarot, was to attain something they call certitude, which we call mukti or moksha or whatever, or kevala jnana or whatever, certitude. They wanted to come to that. They did not want to be perfect, but they wanted that certitude. They wanted to get to that one knowledge which, having grasped it, then you grasp everything else. So the point of the tarot was certitude, to come to certitude. It's what the European mystics used, but the end point is the same. When you come to that certitude, you are in that same state of no mind and you are functioning from that higher consciousness. So this really, it's one of the great things I've done in my life. It's one of the great achievements of my life. And like I said, there has been only, in 700 years of tarot, only 2 people have had the courage or the knowledge or the foolishness, God knows what, to attempt a tarot pack like that. And since our devtas, our gods, are living entities, they are in worship, they have been in worship for thousands of years. When you engage with the archetypes in these images, the wallop that you get, the force and the power that you get is much greater, because these are not These are not something that is from a dead culture and now it is being revived. It is not like some kind of Egyptian god, or it is not a Norse god or a Greek god which nobody really worships anymore, So the connection has been broken. But in our case, the connection is alive, the connection is vital, it's a daily reality. So that makes the Sacred India Tarot like an enormously powerful thing, because the archetypes are alive. They are not stagnant or dormant archetypes. They are archetypes that are worshipped on a daily basis. Here, that's Kali. That's Hanuman. That's Buddha. That's Vishnu. And that's Nataraja. Because Nataraja is, of course, the most perfect example. But since the archetypes are in engagement with human consciousness and they have remained so for thousands of years, that gives an advantage to this tarot. That is a great advantage of the tarot. And it is a classical tarot. I have not fiddled with the tarot structure in any way. The tarot structure is 100% authentic and in place. I have just bought out the yogic dimensions and I have just added the Indian mythology dimensions to it. So I find it to be a tremendous help and very entertaining help also because the images are very beautiful. Jane Addams, our artist, she did really lovely drawings. She did them from a spiritual perspective, so they may not, from human anatomy point of view, they may not be accurate, but from an interior spiritual vibration, energy body being, they are tremendously powerful. So in that sense, it's a real shift in consciousness. It's a real addition, a valuable addition to consciousness. I'm waiting for the... Yeah. See, there is just, even if you don't want to do readings, you can just use the cards. You can just use the cards as a meditational gateway. That, for instance, Krishna and Arjuna in the chariot. And the chariot is the card of success and power. So you want that quality to develop in your life. You can actually use that card. You can actually place that card in front of you and you can contemplate it. You can meditate on it very seriously, very significantly. In my book, there is a whole explanation of how to do it. How do you meditate? But you can use it as a meditational tool. A meditational tool is actually one of the most helpful things. And since we knew that that would be one of the uses, we actually created our altar also like that. We actually created our altar so that people can use it to meditate. Now, here is Ganpati. So you want to use it to meditate on the quality of Ganpati. You are feeling there are obstacles in your life which you want out. So you can place him there. There it's all ready and you can use it to meditate. The details are given in the book. If you don't want, you can just pull it out. Here, that's Mahavatar Babaji, who's like the power in yoga. You can use him there also. I would certainly recommend, and he's one of the people in the cards. He's one of the, it's a grace card, but it's not directly connected to the tarot. Even Ganpati is a grace card. But you can use it. You don't meditate, of course, on the more negative sides because it's an integral pack. There will be certain cards which indicate certain negative things. You don't meditate on the negative things. You meditate on the positive things. You can use it. It's very clearly usable. It's been designed so. Inherently within the box, so that you don't lose the card, within the box we created a place so that you can use it for meditation or as an altar or a space. Now the actual technique of meditation and all that, it's better if you learn it personally. And we do teach, again it takes time, because just the basic courses take like about 12 days or so. It will take 12 full days just to cover all the basic stuff. Just the introductory course takes 2 days. and then you slowly get deeper and deeper into what you can do with it, and it takes you 2-3 years before you get good with it and you can start extracting maximum value from it. People don't have the patience for those kind of things, but that is how it used to be taught. Well, at least where I am concerned, those who will become teachers with the breaths, in the end, they have to have this, because this is such an immensely powerful thing. If you constantly try to help people from your own life experience and your own knowledge, there will be certain limitations. You will run dry one day. But if you use the help of something like the Sacred India Tarot, then you're accessing that infinite dimension. You're accessing that infinite level of consciousness. So I will make it compulsory that people know this also. Since it is very directly connected, it's a yogic process. It's a yogic process, because people will ask, when you become a teacher of a process, whether you like it or not, you do tend to get asked about life issues, which you may or may not be in tune to deal with. But if you have access to something like the tarot, then the right answers will come. So it saves you a lot of headache. It saves you a lot of. Yeah? Anything else? Sarvam Shivamayam.